Hello and welcome to Verum Fabula Fellowship Podcast. I'm Wes Mullins.
And I'm Randy Hardman, and we will be your hosts today. It is our goal to bring you content that cultivates and enriches your daily interactions and encourages the refinement of character and intellect. The terrain we cover ranges from literature to philosophy to theology. It is our hope that through these lenses we can offer insight to the human experience and the human condition that is empowering and transformative.
Verum Fabula Fellowship is located in the beautiful town of Wilmore, Kentucky, and the podcast takes place at Drinklings Roastery on Main Street. This is also where the fellowship meets regularly and where members are encouraged to present new thoughts and ideas, engage with interesting and important topics in discussion seminars, and interact with and listen to keynote speakers invited in to challenge us intellectually and spiritually. It is a true intellectual collective. Please rate this podcast on iTunes, and if we've said things that are helpful, be sure to tell your Lewis and Tolkien friends about us. With no more ado, here we go. Further up and further in. Hey guys, welcome to the very first Verum Fabula Fellowship Podcast, or VFF Podcast.
Yeah, neither one of us know Latin pretty well, but I think that's our best English attempt at saying that there. But it's the meaning of it that matters.
Right, the meaning of it is true myth. And those of you that are Lewis and Tolkien fans, I'm guessing that's why you're here, will know that true myth is what the conversation they were having right before Lewis becomes a Christian. And it's about the understanding that all myths derive from the true myth, which is Christ.
We, Wes, you and I met. We got the chance to meet here. Probably what was it, about 2.5 months ago?
Yeah, not very long ago at all.
It was not that long ago. And although we got a little bit of a couple of years, we kind of had one of those chance meetings, and maybe some confirmation there. But we got the chance, and inadvertently started talking about C.S. Lewis and Tolkien. We run the Drinklings Coffee Roastery, which is named after the Inklings, and Wes immediately picked up on that connection point, and we realized that the two of us together, I don't know who's Lewis and who's Tolkien, but
right.
But ultimately we kind of realized that this was a possible vision to bring some of that Lewis and Tolkien emphasis to Wilmore.
So I'd spent a year studying over in Oxford, theology and apologetics, and just fell in love with C.S. Lewis, was a member of the C.S. Lewis Society, and so when I walked into Drinklings, I felt like I was back in Oxford. My family, we love Oxford, and so immediately I had that connection of what they're trying to do here is trying to embody the spirit of Tolkien and Lewis, and immediately I had that, and so I'm like, okay, I'm coming here. I'm going to come here and get my coffee and be a good patron, but there's more than that. I think there's something else that we can do here, and so we started having a conversation about obscure Tolkien books and Lewis stuff, and it just turned into these other conversations that we would come in. And so one day I'm talking to Dr. Devin Brown at his office over at Wilmore. He's a Lewis scholar, and he says we should do a Lewis Tolkien society and do it at Drinklings. And I said, all right. And I came in and started talking to Randy.
Yeah, and from there it was just an immediate. I mean, the concept of Drinklings is to have an impact on the world, and what better way to have an impact than to develop a collective of individuals who, and you saw this in our intro, that not only think about things and talk about things, but apply them to their lives and apply them to the lives of their family and apply them to their work lives and society and so forth. And so we started this VFF, this Verum Fabula Fellowship group, and it has just been a remarkable experience that we had this conception a few weeks back about taking what we do there and putting it out for the rest of the world to hear.
Yeah, so we've had a few meetings so far, and they've just been incredible. We wanted to structure this so that if you were members of this society, members of this fellowship, that you weren't just coming to hear a lecture, that you would get a chance to present ideas, you would get a chance to discuss things, and we would bounce ideas off each other, we would push and challenge each other, and that's what we've seen so far, and we can't wait to do some more meetings. The first meeting, I presented a new Lewisian idea on imagination and reason, and I got really good feedback and pushback and challenging immediately, and it was so good. It's like you're doing mini dissertation challenges, and the next meeting we had, the second meeting we had, was a discussion seminar on what makes a classic. And we went deep. We probably went for 2 hours just back and forth and pushing each other and grappling with ideas. And so it's just been fantastic. And that's what we want, because when we take these ideas and we refine them down to where we can actually use them, we can apply them to our lives, and we can also offer them to other people that they can also make them applicable in their own lives.
I think that's an interesting point there, Wes. I mean, again, as we mentioned in our intro, our focus is literature and it's philosophy and it's theology, and especially those first two have lost a lot of their emphasis in our own lives. Sometimes we prefer the Netflix over reading the good books and the formative books.
And
most of us think philosophy, we have a very maybe not negative but pejorative in some sense view of philosophers as just wasting time thinkers and not getting on with productivity and the things that really matter. And yet I think you and I have both seen in our own lives, and we see this through the work of Lewis and Tolkien, how much literature and philosophy and theology and the ways that those interact really shape not just people's lives, but they've shaped theology.
Oh, absolutely. You can't do theology without philosophy. And it's incredible because I spent the last 6 years on my own just listening to lectures, refining, learning about apologetics, learning about why do I believe what I believe. And then I came to a buddy of mine who was a youth pastor at a large church here, and I said, listen, I have this thesis that if I teach mere Christianity and the Bible, we can make robust young Christians. And so we spent a year going through Mere Christianity. Now, these are millennial kids who are binging on Netflix, and they're on social media, and they shouldn't have time for this, and people said this won't work, they don't want this. After a month of meetings, after they got the deer of the headlights look out of their eyes, they dug in, and we had incredible meetings. And some of these guys went on to they're taking theology and philosophy in college now. It's completely changed their lives. Parents would come up to me in supermarkets and say, thank you so much for what you've done. When these kids came in, you'd ask them, what makes a Christian? And they would say, I hug people and I show them the love of Jesus.
Right.
And that was all they could defend. They couldn't defend anything. They didn't even know why they believed. At the end of the year, these guys were robust, three-dimensional, deep thinkers who could actually sit down and have a conversation for more than 5 seconds about, this is why I believe in Christianity. This is why I do this. Because they understood the tools to use with philosophy and theology, and it was just a beautiful thing. And the thing is, when you express or when you offer someone truth, it is like water to a thirsty soul, and they can't get enough.
Right. Yeah, and I think that's yours and mine. As we've interacted about our daily lives and our history, we've both seen how that comes into play in real ways. I mean, you think about apologetics and theology sometimes get a bad rap, and sometimes deservedly so.
Yes, deservedly so, yeah.
So this is not going to be one of those podcasts where we embrace the smacking down of people, and we're not narcissistic. We're not narcissistic kind of people, right?
I don't think we are.
We don't want to create that as we want to talk about.
We're not here to win.
We're not here to win. We're here to have conversations, and those are important. So. And you mentioned here, how you can't do philosophy, or you can't do theology without good philosophy. And I think even looking back into Lewis and Tolkien, they might even say literature. You can't do good theology, and you can't do good philosophy without literature. And so that's why all three of those things are structured together to say we got to read the good books. We got to know the good authors. As somebody once said to me, a mentor once said, "Read old dead guys."
Oh,
and
man,
so
yeah.
We read old dead guys, and we talk about old dead guys and women and
women.
Old dead women.
Yes. No, we wouldn't leave those dead women out.
No, absolutely not. And so this is our way to take what we're going to be doing here into the podcast world. So sometimes you'll hear, us just kind of goofing around and talking about, maybe something that we talked about in group, or maybe we'll have a topic in mind that we'll unpack. Maybe sometimes we'll have a guest lecturer that will come on and they'll sit with us in the podcast and talk through
some Lewis and Tolkien guys
they're working with, and then sometimes we'll take some of our meetings and we'll also put those out in the podcast. Those will be longer sort of podcasts.
Yes.
But the idea is to really take a lot of this stuff in the theology, the philosophy, and the literature realm, and just sit with it and have conversations. And so we hope that through you listening in this podcast, that you get to be a part of that conversation with us. And sometimes conversation is sitting back and listening. Sometimes it's thinking. Sometimes it's reflecting. And we'd love to talk with you as well, and to email exchange and to talk on social media and things like that, and hear what it is that you think about the topics that we're talking about in VFF. Yeah,
I was listening to one of the best talks I have ever heard on literature. Sir Roger Scruton and Jordan Peterson were talking. And if you haven't heard it, go to Jordan Peterson's podcast and look up the Sir Roger Scruton and Jordan Peterson talk at Cambridge. It is so rich. I've listened to it 6 times, and it's a 2.5-hour podcast. It's just so rich. But one of the phrases that Peterson says that is just so impactful is he says, literature, the good literature, the classic literature, is the best of us could do. Mm-hmm. And I just think about that, the best of us could produce. And that's why we still read Shakespeare. That's why that's why Lewis and Tolkien still have this influence on us, because they are so impactful. So we're so happy to have you guys hanging out with us and listening. And you said, that listening part of conversation is so important. I liken that to prayer. People all the time, when they pray, I always ask people in prayer, do you stop and meditate? Do you stop and listen when you ask for a question? When you ask God a question, do you stop and listen for an answer? Because a part of conversation, a huge part, is actually listening and then thinking about what you're listening to.
So we promise to do that as well. We do it in our VFF group, and
yes,
that's going to be a huge part of this podcast as we listen to each other, as we listen to you, the listener, who can chime in from time to time, as we listen to scholars and theologians and philosophers and authors and whoever else crazy that we're going to get into these seats and into these meetings. But this is probably more of a listening podcast than it will be a talking podcast, and I'm excited.
I like that.
That's a different kind of thing than that's out there.
It's a new niche market.
It's a new niche market. Strangely, listening to podcasts is a new niche market.
Oh, that's great.
So we have a lot of things planned as well. With this, Wes, you kind of want to just talk on that for a minute. Some of the other things that people can maybe get excited about.
As far as like the meetings,
and the meetings, what we want to do with that.
So we, as an intellectual collective, so with the meetings, we have the meetings here. So if you're a Lewis or Tolkien fan and you're in the area and you want to become a member, you can come, drop in. There is a membership requirement, just because we are serious about this. We're serious about challenging each other, and so. We want to know that you guys are also serious about that. But the meetings take place. If you're a member, you can present a new idea. We have discussion seminars on all kinds of broad topics, theology, philosophy, and literature. And then we do bring in keynote speakers like Dr. Devin Brown, Dr. Michael Peterson, and we're talking right now with Dr. David Downing from the Marion E. Wade Center up there, and he and his wife, we're trying to get them to come down in the spring.
Right.
So we're going to have great keynote speakers, Lewis and Tolkien speakers, theologians from all over coming in to our town of Wilmore and also challenging us. As well as a intellectual collective and Society, we also have our sights on, possibly doing a journal here in the future. And even if VFF gets a hold and this culture expands organically like it should, and people get a hold of this, we would like to have local chapters, all over the globe, but especially all over the United States. One of my goals, one of my dream goals, is to have a VFF in Oxford. That is one of the things that I'm like, all right, this is I'm shooting for the stars. Ultimately, we're going to have a VFF, maybe even a Drinklings.
Maybe a Drinklings coffee over.
Drinklings coffee and VFF in Oxford. With a Lewis Tolkien house where we can do all this. So we have great vision, and the thing about vision is it's not wishful thinking, because you have to put legs to it. And so we have vision and we have goals, but we also have tenacity and I think we have the fortitude to actually see these things through. So as we begin to sharpen each other, our intellect's going to sharpen, our character's going to sharpen, and also I think our ability to understand business, our ability to do a better podcast, our ability to express and communicate better, that's all going to grow as a part of this process. So as us listening to you and you listening to us, this is going to create this symbiotic, organic thing of growth in all of us. And I think that's going to be something that's going to be amazing in the coming years and hopefully decades.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm excited about this. This is a whole new project. I like that idea of thinking about podcasts as projects.
Projects.
We get to see if this works.
Yeah, we're just throwing it out there.
It is a thesis that we think needs to be trotted out.
Yes, it's a thesis
and tested, and we're excited about. This is our first one, and just kind of explaining the process and explaining what this is about. And they say develop a 3 to 5 year plan, and I'm just developing a 3-month plan about where this podcast is going to go in 3 months or so.
I think that's incredible. Yeah, we're very excited. This came together super quickly, and it wasn't rushed or forced. Like the VFF came together and it was just amazing. People were actually hungry for this, and people are super excited. So we're not dragging people here. People are just like, I want to be a part of this. So I think for the first podcast, I think we've covered a lot of ground and set some things up. So
if you have suggestions or if you have comments, things that you would like to see us do, please feel free to shoot us an email. We'll get our emails up on social media and the website as well. But that's the best way. That's the way that we can listen to you. So if there are things or topics that you think that would be great to discuss, then we'll get them out there.
This will be on Spreaker. That's going to be the main way it's going to be hosted through. So it'll be published to iTunes and all those things. So if you go onto the Spreaker of this, then you'll actually we'll have information in there about our contact information, but also on social media and things like that. So, all right. Without any further lingering here.
Do you think we should figure out who's going to be Lewis and who's going to be Tolkien?
Well, I am writing a thesis on Lewis, so
okay, I'll be Tolkien. I'm currently rereading Lord of the Rings right now.
There you go.
So I think I'm in a Tolkien-esque mood.
All right, I'll be Lewisian here. I'll be Jack.
You'll be Jack, and I'll be
J.R.
I
don't know if he had one.
He had a nickname, yeah.
Oh well, we really need to know that.
We do.
We're going to be these scholars. So, yeah, if you guys know that, if he had a nickname, because I'll be Jack, and then he'll be J.R.R., which is
Baron.
Baron. Oh my gosh!
That was his nickname he gave to himself, of course. But
the Jack and Baron.
Jack and Baron. That's who we are.
Okay. All right. So, guys, we have meetings every Monday. Every other Monday. Right now, during the school year, we'll see. Maybe we'll do one every Monday, but the podcast will come out incrementally. We don't know yet what the schedule is for the podcast because we are both family men. We're both working. I'm working sort of 2 jobs right now with this coming in. So we'll get these out as quickly as we can and as excellent as we can. We want to do an excellent job, not just throw these things out, but we want to do this with purpose and design. So from here in Wilmore, Kentucky at Drinklings Roastery, I have been Jack.
And I have been Baron.
Until next time, guys, have a great day.